Today we're going to be talking about something called the depression uniform and how something as simple as what you're wearing can be maintaining your depression. Hi everyone. In today's video we're going to be talking about one of the seemingly small, simple things that can make such a huge difference in terms of your depression. It relates to something I call the depression uniform, and we're going to be talking about how the depression uniform works to continue making you feel depressed and what you can do to change it. But before I get into that, just a couple of disclaimers to go over. I'm a registered psychologist in the province of British Columbia, Canada, and this video is for informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute or replacement for advice from your doctor or mental health professional. Now, with those things out of the way, let's start talking about the depression uniform. I want you to think about what you typically wear when you're at home. We all have home clothes that are usually really comfortable, but not the most attractive or put together outfits. These may be clothes like pajamas, really comfortable sweatpants, baggy, oversized sweater, fuzzy, cozy socks. We put these clothes on because they're comfortable, they're familiar, and they allow us to just relax at home. These clothes usually feel good. There's nothing wrong with these clothes per se. But think about what happens in depression. One of the things that can happen is that we lose interest and motivation to do things, particularly things in which we have to leave our home, go out somewhere, do something active, or do something productive. We'd just rather stay at home, isolate, and be away from other people. So the thing is, if I'm not planning to leave my home, what's the point in getting dressed up in clothes that I would typically leave my home in? What's the point of putting on nice pants or a more fitted shirt or doing my hair? Those are all things that take up energy and take effort. And when a person's feeling depressed, you don't really have a lot of energy or effort to give. There's not a whole lot of motivation to want to do these types of self-care activities. So what ends up happening is that I end up in these clothes that are very comfortable, very familiar, but also clothes that I know I'm never going to leave my house wearing. And this is what I call the depression uniform. It's when you put on those clothes, or maybe never even change out of those clothes, that when you're wearing them, you know you're not going to be leaving the house or likely doing very much productive that day. If I'm wearing my depression uniform, it's like I'm telling myself I'm not going to be going out today and I'm probably not going to accomplish very much. It's the uniform that I wear for a depression day. And I've talked in previous videos how depression is kind of like a gremlin that is sitting on your shoulder and is telling you to behave in ways and to think in ways that will perpetuate the depression. Well, in the case of the depression uniform, the depression gremlin is telling you to seek out comfort in these clothes. What's the point in getting dressed into something that isn't as comfortable as what you're wearing? What's the point in exerting energy that I don't have right now to get out of these clothes that I'm so comfortable wearing? They're so familiar to me. They're so familiar to me that I might have been wearing them for a few days in a row. If I'm feeling so exhausted and tired, what's the point in wasting my energy to get changed out of these clothes if I'm just going to get changed back into these clothes or a similar depression uniform later today? So the depression gremlin really wants you to wear the depression uniform because it serves a purpose. And the purpose is to keep you stuck in the depression. So you might be wondering, what's the big deal about what I'm wearing? I was depressed well before I started wearing the depression uniform. How in the world is changing my clothes going to make any difference whatsoever. What's the big deal with what I wear? Now, even though what you're wearing in a particular day may seem like a small thing, it's actually surprisingly important, and it serves as a foundational piece of what your day is going to look like. Suppose one day I wake up in the morning and I stay in my depression uniform. I may have worn it to bed, I get out of bed, and I'm puttering around my house still wearing it because I have no intention or no plan to do anything today. But then suppose I have just a little glimpse of interest or motivation. Suppose I look out my window and it's a really sunny day and I think to myself, it's been a while since I went for a walk. It'd be nice to get out and get some fresh air. So I have this little spark of motivation, this little spark of interest, which may rarely come up because I usually feel so depressed. So now I think it would be nice to go for a walk. That's good, right? But the problem is, what am I wearing? I'm wearing the depression uniform. And even though I might want to go for a walk, I'm not going to go for a walk wearing my depression uniform clothes. For me to have to go for a walk, now what I have to do is I have to make the effort to take off the depression uniform and put on new, clean clothes that I can go out in. And in the process of thinking through what I need to do now to go for my walk, it isn't just about going for a walk anymore, but now involves me having to figure out what I'm going to wear and then change out of my depression uniform clothes and then put on my new going out clothes. You know what? It's just too much of an effort. It's just way too much work. And so what ends up happening is that I don't end up going for that walk, even though there was that little spark of motivation and interest. And it's because of the depression uniform set the foundation for what my day was going to be like. Now imagine that same scenario that I just talked about, but when I woke up in the morning, I got out of my depression uniform. I put on some pants and a t-shirt that I can go out in, even though I have no plans of going out. When I feel that little spark of interest and motivation to go for a walk, there now isn't that barrier for me to immediately just go for the walk. And so it's more likely that I actually act on that little spark of motivation and interest. The result is I end up going for a walk and maybe, just maybe, I feel a little bit better. The other thing about taking off the depression uniform is that we tend to feel better when we look better. Now, I'm not saying you have to dress in super high-end or flashy clothes, but even just casual clothes that are nice, that are clothes that you can go out in, even just wearing those clothes can help you feel better about yourself than if you're wearing the depression uniform. Suppose you're walking around your house and you've got regular I'm going out types of clothes on. You may pass by a mirror and not really think much about it. You don't think much of it. It doesn't really register to you. You're not thinking, hey, I look really great. I feel really good about myself. You're not thinking any of those things. It's just kind of benign. But imagine you're wearing the depression uniform and you're puttering around your house and you pass by that mirror and you take a look at yourself in these comfortable but generally baggy and unattractive clothes. Think about what you might think about yourself. It may be thoughts like, I look like a slob, I look disgusting, I'm such a mess, I've been wearing these clothes forever. The other thing about ditching the depression uniform and making sure that you get dressed in going out clothes every day is that as small and insignificant as it seems, getting dressed is actually accomplishing something in the day. In other videos, I've talked about the importance of goal setting and setting goals that match your level of motivation and energy and giving up on bigger expectations of yourself. By making sure that you get dressed every day, what you're doing is you're accomplishing the goal. It doesn't matter if you think it's a significant goal or it's some sort of achievement. All that matters is that it's something that you did that maybe the depression gremlin told you not to do. So even if you get dressed and don't go anywhere that day, it's the exact same day that you would have had if you were wearing the depression uniform. But at least you can say to yourself, I got dressed today. That's not something you would have been able to say to yourself if you'd just worn your depression uniform. And the final reason to ditch the depression uniform is that it's important to make getting dressed part of your normal routine. It's something that you have some control over. No one else can control whether or not you're getting dressed or what you're planning to wear in a given day. You typically don't require any external help or environmental factors to ensure that this is something that's getting accomplished. It's entirely within your control. By ditching the depression uniform and making sure that you get dressed every day, what you're doing is you're making that a foundational activity, and you're making it a part of your normal routine. It doesn't matter how down you're feeling. It doesn't matter if you're having a really bad day. It doesn't matter if people aren't returning your calls. None of that has to have an effect or an impact on you being able to get dressed. See, the thing with depression is that it can often feel that there is so much of our lives that are completely out of control. There are so many stressors or challenges or problems that I can't fix, that I can't overcome. And so it becomes so easy to feel like there's nothing you can do to feel better, and that there's nothing you can do to feel some control in your life. But getting dressed is one of those things. And this is impossible as long as you're wearing that depression uniform. So I hope this gives you a better understanding of how even something as seemingly simple as what you wear can impact and change your depression. If you resonate with this idea and this concept of wearing a depression uniform, I strongly encourage you to try and set some goals around taking off the depression uniform, getting dressed each day, and setting up a foundation of possibility for your day. So I hope that makes sense. I would love to hear any questions or thoughts or comments that you have about this, so please leave me some comments in the comments section down below. If you've been enjoying my videos and would like to see more, please hit that subscribe button and notification bell, and you'll be alerted every week when I post a new video. So that's all for today's video. As always, thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video, and I will see you in the next one.